My video on the ambiance and memories I have from Halo multiplayer maps did way better than I could have thought. Whenever I make a video, I like to spend a few days on it, writing, filming, editing, and the such, because I believe that if you took the time to click, you shouldn't have your time wasted with something super low effort. So when you look at something like ambiance and the memories I have from Halo's multiplayer maps, you might think that you're getting just a simple, boring top 10 video, which that wasn't the case, I hope at least. I want to make each video special, and generally it's why I stopped doing the Q&A videos, because I didn't personally know if they really held any value for people. Though I have been getting a ton of requests to bring the Q&As back, so that's something I'll be starting next week every Friday. Halo's campaigns hold a special place in my heart, as they do many gamers. As a series that comes from the old days of level exploration and sandboxy solutions to problems, it makes sense that in the modern age of linear snooze fests, Halo would continue to stand out. A splash of excellent encounter design, a dash of satisfying weapon and vehicle play, a sprinkling of great music and presentation, and you've got a recipe for a game that will be remembered fondly. Today, I want to take a trip down memory lane with some of my favorite Halo levels, the things that made them special to me, and the memories that I have of them. My first game on the Xbox 360 was Halo 3, and while not being my first Halo, it was the one that affected me the most emotionally. The new hardware, controller, graphics, and feel led to Halo 3 being a very magical game for me. The intro to the level had me hooked with how it had this new style of framing Halo as a fairy tale of some kind. I was raised Russian Orthodox, so religious symbolism in games is my kryptonite, and Halo 3's choirs, ethereal tone, and heavenly atmosphere gripped me hard. I played it with a friend Daniel, who lived up the street from me during a sleepover on a Friday night. We spent the day at the pool, so I had that relaxed feeling you get from being in the sun all day, and it also helped that I was in a good mood since we had pizza for dinner at the pool with our friends. You need to reach back into your memories and remember the feel that sleepovers used to give you. Remember how exciting it made even the mundane. Movies, soda, pizza, staying up super late, sleeping bags, etc., etc. Remember it. The sun had already set, so it was dark outside. He had a pretty big TV, and he had a really good set of speakers for 2008. We had our sprites, and we put in the disc to his special Halo 3 Edition Xbox 360, and the main menu bathed the dark room in a beautiful blue glow as the music drowned out the sound of crickets outside. We made a pact to beat the campaign this night, and the first level was amazing to me. I had only played bits of the Halo 3 campaign since its release in 2007, so this was my first time starting from the beginning, and let me just say, it was the best sleepover I ever had. To this day, Halo 3's rendition of Walk in the Woods still pops into my head sometimes when I think of Halo and why it always felt magical to me, hunting brutes in the woods as their alien calls ring through the trees. It's a beautiful level for a beautiful game. What kind of video on levels would this be without the memories of the silent cartographer? This memory will be a bit interesting since I wasn't actually the one playing it. Rather, it was my older sister. She had a laptop for school that she played games on, and sometimes when I was younger, I would lay on the floor of her room as she did homework or played games while I drew and annoyingly asked her, "What's that? What's happening? Can I play?" I remember one school night coming into her room after I finished my homework with my paper and pencils. My first ever glimpse of Halo Combat Evolved was this shot. the pelicans flying over water as Cortana briefs the player on what's going on just before the epic beach landing. The music, the hypnotic performance of Jen Taylor, the visual of the landscape curving into the sky, the beach, the aliens, it was a little overwhelming to my imagination as a child. I always found Halo Combat Evolved to be more visually interesting as a game than Halo 2, and this level and the way that this image burnt into my brain is part of why I think that. In playing it myself at a friend's house split screen, I fell in love with the world of Halo more and more. There was something deeply exciting about riding in the shotgun of the Warthog as he drove around the island. It's hard to explain, but looking out beyond the ocean at the unbelievable skybox, as I understood the impossible world I was on, with the impossible alien enemy I was up against. Still to this day, I replay it on my own time because I think it's only aged like a fine wine. The remaster is beautiful as well. Halo is truly magical, and levels like Silent Cartographer are why. The Storm has all the ingredients for a beautiful level. A mix of indoor and outdoor combat, rain, AI in the background, all doing their own thing that helps make the level feel larger than it probably is, and of course, the Scarab. For some reason as a kid, I loved walkers in games. Some large machine with big legs always captured my attention and even made me excited, because ever since watching ATST walkers chasing people through the moon forest of Endor, or the AT-ATs in Empire Strikes Back, I realized how truly scary it would be to be chased by a machine with legs. The Scarab was the best thing for Halo 3 to have as a first-person shooter for me, because it was introduced in a massive level with seamless vehicle and infantry combat. It was already a game with a very dreamlike presentation, which made everything seem larger scale and epic. And the fact that it was actually an entity that moved around meant it didn't feel like a cheap scripted level gimmick. This was an actual enemy. Daniel and I spent most of the fight giggling and hiding from it under a pipe before the Marines somehow brought it to its knees. We climbed aboard and had a brilliant idea. Let's stay up here and use it as a base to defend us against the friendlies we were about to start slaughtering. We began killing Marines left and right on the ground, and pretty soon they began shooting back. The Scarab then stood back up to our surprise and began moving around, which just made me even more excited. During Empire Strikes Back, there would be random shots of Imperials inside the massive AT-AT walkers, and I always wanted to know how exciting it would be to be inside of a walking mobile platform. And now I was. I'm a bit ashamed to admit that we stayed on this thing, as it gave us a piggyback ride for a really long time. Probably a good half an hour was spent fooling around on this thing's back. But the memories it created were ultimately worth it. Time wasted wisely. Cairo Station is a bit of a fun level because it was one of my first ever experiences with Halo period, as well as the Xbox console itself. I was having a sleepover with my friend John, and he had an Xbox and Halo 2. John lived in a pretty massive house in the middle of the woods, and what's funny is they always actually left their doors wide open so the cats and dogs could come and go as they pleased. It was a fun home, and I loved staying with him as a kid. One night, after jumping on his trampoline till dusk, we came inside as it got dark to find his older brother on the TV in the living room playing 4-player split-screen Halo 2 with friends. I wanted to play, but naturally they didn't let me ruin their fun. John had an Xbox in his room upstairs, but since it was Saturday night and church was in the morning, no Xbox for us. We played with Transformers until his dad said lights out. John was asleep remarkably quick, but I had a dastardly plan. John, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Also, it happened in 2005. Get over it. I stealthily turned on his Xbox and navigated my way to Halo 2. I loaded up the first mission and played with the volume really low as he slept. I remember being super excited that the first mission was on a space station, since I love space stations in general. Something about the idea of a glass plate protecting me from the harsh conditions of space and the massive view of Earth really sent shivers down my spine. I also liked the atmosphere of the Marines all running around to and fro as the iconic alarm sound from Halo 2 was blaring. I also thought the grunts were hysterical and had to turn down the volume more whenever they'd shriek at the sight of me with my 2 SMGs coming at them down a hallway. Sadly, John began stirring in his sleep around the time that you get to the 0G section, and I panicked and shut off the Xbox and TV. He didn't wake up, but it spooked me enough to make me try getting some sleep myself. But you know what? It was worth it. And it actually led to my desire to play more Halo 2, and you can actually see a continuation of me playing Halo 2 with John in the Halo Maps video. I'll link it down below if you're interested in seeing where this story goes. Believe it or not, I have fond memories of Halo 4, despite committing myself to not liking it at first. Back in early 2013, when I was in high school and trying, while failing, to make videos, I'm actually embarrassed to admit that I didn't have a capture card at the time. Know what that means? Yup, I literally held a camera in front of the TV with the lights off to capture gameplay footage. I have a bad habit of unlisting and privating old videos of mine that I find cringy or I found they contain certain opinions that I no longer believe, but I actually kept my first upload for cringe purposes. It's bad. Really bad. Back to the story. My friend Tyler, who I'm still close with and actually records the 17 Years of Halo series with me, brought over his copy of Halo 4 to win me over. He wanted to record it, so we did the usual, turned off the lights, propped the camera in front of the TV, and recorded my first gameplay experience of Halo 4's first level. I was trying my hardest to dislike the game, since a new studio was making it, and that means bad. I'll be honest, the quick-time events and the first-person scripted sequences did make it easy to have a negative opinion, but once control was finally handed to me, the first thing I did at Tyler's request was fire the assault rifle. Despite whining and complaining about Halo 4, I had to admit to him, that's a damn awesome sound for the assault rifle. And as I played the level, I have to admit, there was a part of my inner childhood that was awakening at the sight of Covenant boarding parties invading a space station / ship as I was awoken from cryo-sleep, guns with numbers on them, an elite opening its mandibles to roar in my face, suicide grunts running at me, jackal shields, the whole thing. Afterwards, we did play something else and I stopped filming, but I did ask my mom to get me a copy of Halo 4 after that night. I didn't tell Tyler though, because remember, I had to pretend I hated Halo 4. Well, around the end of 2013 is when the game finally won me over, and I came out of the closet, so to speak, and just admitted, you know what, Halo 4 is pretty cool, and it's now my third or second favorite campaign in the series. The last mission of Halo 3 is pretty damn fantastic for many reasons. It has you climbing a very familiar structure from Combat Evolved as you fight your way to a very familiar control room. During that sleepover with Daniel, we never actually finished the game that night. We got too tired and ended up beating it the next day. Daniel kept hyping up the final level for me and telling me that we were going to get to use Sergeant Johnson's unlimited ammo Spartan laser. But Daniel didn't tell me Johnson would have to die for it. Daniel, being the goober he is, actually stood up to salute Johnson as he said goodbye to Chief. I did the same as to not be rude to this fictional game character. After we paid our respects, we hauled ass to his warthog that was waiting for us, and I experienced the coolest set piece in a shooter ever. Daniel wanted me on the gunner seat since he was the self-proclaimed better driver, so I obliged and shot space zombies and sentinels while Daniel dodged and weaved around collapsing structures. I didn't know if it was the epic Halo theme that was playing, or the fact that it was actually mixing in choir this time, which really got to my heart, or the sugar rush from all the Sprite and Sunny D we were drinking, or even the way that Cortana was constantly reminding us of how close we were to running out of time. But Daniel and I got so hyper and excited. As the level began collapsing faster and faster, Daniel and I actually began yelling over the music at each other to drive faster or shoot better. At some point, the Warthog flipped and we actually traded positions hurriedly while reminding each other to hurry up, it's gonna blow! We began cheering at ramps, sweating something fierce on our controllers, and when Cortana said, "Gun it, Chief!" at the end of the level, Daniel began yelling at me, "Go, go, go!" We made the jump and landed in the Forward Unto Dawn. We were jumping up and down, hugging each other and cheering. We beat Halo 3. We were so damn hyper that we had to go outside and chase Daniel's dog in the front yard for an hour just to cool down. That final level was so exciting for me that I'll never forget it. Halo really hasn't ever had such an excellent final level with a heart-pounding ending, and it's a pity that Halo 4 and 5 opted for the bog-standard first-person scripted sequence where you watch the game play the final bit for you. Here's to hoping that Halo Infinite ends with something playable and memorable. I have many more memories from Halo and its campaigns, but without making the video any longer, I decided I should stop and maybe ask some of you guys about your favorite memories from Halo's campaigns, how they impacted you as a child, what are the levels that stuck with you into adulthood. Would you like me to make a sequel to this video? Let me know in the comments, and maybe share the video around if you enjoyed it. And since it's the end of the video, I will be answering a question from somebody in the comments. Now guys, we are going to be doing the Q&As again, but I'm still going to be answering some of these questions at the end of the videos. If you want me to answer a question, leave Q&A before your question so that I know it's one that you want me to notice. This question is from Rishav Roy, who says, "Hey Late Night, I play console since I don't have the time or the money for a PC. And do you think that if it released on PC, that console Halo would die off?" So I released a video talking about why I'm excited that Halo's coming to PC and the ways that it would benefit from a PC. And there were an alarming number of these types of comments suggesting Halo releasing on PC would just kill the Xbox, which that's not really the case. And the reason I say that is because we do need to think about the way that people do consume games and the way that they kind of think. So a lot of people do believe that a PC has a high barrier to entry, which is true to an extent. Now, it's not as crazy complicated as a lot of people like to suggest, but in order to play games at max settings, it is, it's going to run you a little under $2,000. And some people just prefer dropping the hard $400 for a console that they're set with till the next console generation comes out. PC has existed for a long time, and it never stopped the console industry. This generation of consoles, the Xbox One and the PS4, were really underpowered compared to what high-end PCs were doing. And it still didn't stop this generation of consoles from being super profitable. If I remember right, the PS4 is like one of the best-selling consoles of all time, like in terms of yearly purchases. Consoles are doing fine. Xbox isn't gonna die off because there are millions of people who would prefer the simplicity of just being able to buy a big plastic box and trust that it would work. Console is fine. Halo on console is fine. And in fact, there are people who do prefer playing on console because they find the comfort of playing from a TV and having a console UI designed around playing from a TV with a controller more comforting than a PC. I disagree. I prefer playing on my PC, but that's kind of the beauty of choice. You get to pick where you play your games from. And I think if Halo came to PC, it would find its community on PC, but you'd certainly still have the Xbox community, and I'd expect the Xbox community to be bigger than the PC community in terms of Halo, simply because PC players didn't grow up with Halo, while console gamers did. Those are just my thoughts, though. Xbox is gonna be fine, and I'm really excited to start playing Halo on PC. I'm really excited that 343 is finally taking a look at PC. So I hope that answered your question and maybe put some of your fears to rest. And guys, I will see you on the next video.